Hi, I'm Simon from Fishbowl Inventory, and this is our 2019.6 release video. So guys, this is just a short video just to talk you through some of the highlights and new features that are available in Fishbowl Inventory 2019.6, which as always are detailed here on our wiki site under our release notes section. So the main new features that have been released in 2019.6 is a couple of new accounting integration enhancements with Xero. So firstly, we now export Fishbowl classes across to Xero categories. So that means we can do divisional reporting out of Fishbowl across into our financial system. And we also have the ability to relabel those classes. And a third feature, which is not detailed here on the highlights list, is now the ability to map where you want customer prepayments from Fishbowl to be posted to in Xero. So a lot of changes and enhancements with our Xero integration on this release. The other big change that's available in 2019.6 is a whole bunch of redesigns of our Fishbowl GO screens, which I'll go through and highlight shortly. But first, before we go into Fishbowl GO, let's go and have a look at the Xero integration changes. So firstly, customer prepayments. So before 19.6, when a customer prepayment was taken against a sales order by going into the sales order and taking a payment, that would push through as a prepayment in Xero, but be linked to a default sales account. And that sale was then reversed when the actual fulfillment was made. What's now available as part of the integration wizard, so if we run up here into accounting, and if I reconnect to my Xero file, and just allow access to my Xero connection and copy down that authorization, is part of our default account mapping now. This is just loading here in Fishbowl. We now have this new field here for customer prepayment. So in the past, this wasn't available. So what you need to do with Xero now is create an other current liability with a name that makes sense to you. So I've called mine customer prepayments. From that point forward, once that integration is made, all customer prepayments taken through Fishbowl will be posted to that account as a prepayment in Xero. Just to be aware, if you are currently taking payments through Xero, once you upgrade to the new version, you will have to do that. Otherwise, you will get an export error because that account won't have been mapped yet. Okay. The second big new feature with Xero integration is the ability to now map classes. So classes are recorded in Fishbowl against sales orders, purchase orders, and work orders, and as a way of tracking a divisional cost. So as you can see here down the bottom of this sales order, I can assign a class. Now classes can be used for product divisions, but in my case, it's my warehouses. So in the past, this wasn't mapped to Xero. What you can now do is up here under accounting in classes, is define the divisions or segments of the business that you want to report as separate financial divisions in Xero. So as you can see here, mine are my warehouses. To turn this on, by the way, across Fishbowl, you need to go into this screen and under Tools, Module Options, tell Fishbowl that you're going to be using class tracking, and down here, you can define a name that's going to match your Xero category name. And I've just stuck with classes as my name. But you could call it division or department or whatever makes sense to your business. Once that category name has been defined and you've set up your classes, you need to do the same thing in Xero. So over here in Xero, if you go to your settings and go to advanced settings, you have the ability to turn on tracking of categories just here. So if I go into tracking categories, you can see I've already created a category. You can do that by clicking add tracking category. I've called my class, so it matches Fishbowl, and I've defined my category options, which are BUR, Melbourne, and Sydney. What that's going to mean is whenever you do a transaction in Fishbowl and assign a class, which can also be defaulted, when that exports to Xero, I'll just fulfill this sales order here really quickly so it can go across to Xero. It's going to go across with that category. Okay, so that's been exported. So if I look in Xero now and go into that invoice for today, what I'm going to see is each of those lines have been assigned a class, or as I've called it, or a Xero category, which then means you can filter your profit and loss by that particular category or division or class. Okay, that's pretty much it with our main Xero integration enhancements in 19.6. So now let's go across and have a look at Fishbowl GO. So here's Fishbowl GO I've got running here. Now, the core functionality of Fishbowl Go is still very similar, but what the guys have done in 19.6 is change the design of a lot of screens. So what they've now done across most modules is when you go into that module, they've shaded every second line. It makes it a lot easier to read when you've got a long list of transactions to pick or to receive. And we're now presenting more information in that list. So for instance, against each sales order here now, we have the sales order number, the customer name on the front page, its expected fulfillment date, and also its status if you need to prioritize your picking. And that's also true when you go into a transaction. So if I go into that sales order to pick, I've only got one line here actually, but this has been redesigned as well, where I can now see the quantity, I can see the FIFO location to pick from, I can also see the item description, and I can also see the same symbols that I see within the pick module within Fishbowl. Also down the bottom here, you have the ability to show notes. So I can see the order note by clicking on that little note button. And if the item has any item specific notes, that will also show here below the description. So that redesign of the look and feel of Fishbowl has happened through most modules. So picking, shipping, delivery, and receiving. The other couple of enhancements that have been added to Fishbowl Go is the ability to allocate an add inventory or a scrap against a customer job. So if I go into scrapping now, I now have a new field here at the bottom to be able to allocate the cost of that scrap against a customer job. So if I'm using Fishbowl in a way where I want to value my scrapping of stock against a particular customer, I can do that just here, and that'll post a journal through to my accounting system for the value of that scrap. There are a bunch of other little enhancements as well in 19.6, and they are all available on the release notes page. But as always, if you want to have any questions before upgrading, please don't hesitate to contact our office on 1300 785 755 in Australia or 0800 785 755 in New Zealand. Well, guys, that's probably it for our 19.6 release video. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.